Welcome to Care Sandwich, the podcast where we dive into the success journeys of law firm owners across the country. I'm Margarita Eberline, your host and the founder of Marketing Boss, a fractional chief marketing officer firm for law firms. On this show, we'll explore the challenges, strategies, and victories that have shaped law firms and how they wrap every interaction with care. Because we believe that caring isn't just a value, it's a strategy for success. So grab your favorite sandwich, sit back, and let's dig into a conversation filled with insight, inspiration, and of course, a lot of care. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Care Sandwich. I have Moshe, who is a law firm financial advisor, a law firm business CFO. He goes by many different titles, and one of them is the money guy. If you own a law firm, you want to talk to this guy about how to budget, how to grow, how to forecast, how to price, how to give incentives to your sales and intake team, all that fun stuff. And I want you to go ahead and give us an overview in your own words about what you do, how you do it, and why do attorneys come to you for help?
Sure. Awesome, Margarita. Thank you very much for having me here. Fellow podcast host. So I host the Profit with Law podcast. For your listeners or viewers, you want to check it out. It's Profit with Law in any podcast player, as well as Profit with Law on YouTube. I wear a number of hats, including daddy. I have 7 kids, 3 grandkids, and they're a big focus of my life. And also the preceptor for me entering and doing the work that I do today. I started as an IT specialist straight out of high school, never went to school. My mother just wanted to get me off the streets. She knew that I was, not that I was that bad a kid, but I was hanging out with friends till 1 in the morning, sleeping till 1 in the afternoon. Typical thing you would do at 18 years old. And
I do that now. What are you talking about?
I'm jealous. I do the go to sleep at 1, but I don't do the wake up at 1 in the afternoon.
No,
I wish I did. So yeah, my mother wanted to get me off the streets, do something productive. She knew I liked computers or had some knack with computers, and she introduced me to a local computer vendor, and that got me a gig. I was an apprentice for him first, and then I started working, and it turned into a whole career. Fast forward, I was director of IT. I was running a major operation. I was earning 6 figures as a 20-something-year-old. But I went to buy my first house. I was 21. I got married at 19. I had my first kid at 19. People
You
think I'm
grew
crazy.
up fast.
I'm crazy. But had my second kid on the way. I was 21 years old, and I said, okay, we need to buy a house. Went to my mother, and I said, I've got the income to pay a mortgage, but how do I save for the down payment? And she said, well, funny you should ask, because your grandfather... Now, my grandfather left Nazi Germany when he was 11 years old. He lost his mother and his twin siblings in the war, came with just his dad. His father had some money, and he was an orange merchant. He had orange orchards, but all that was taken away from him. But he had some money stashed away that he converted into diamonds, sent it ahead to his cousins in New York. They went to Israel first. Ultimately, they ended up settling in Washington Heights, New York. He started a diamond merchant business with the small amount of inventory he had sent forward, before him, and was there waiting. And that, over time, grew into a larger business operation. My grandfather took it over, and at some point he was financially successful enough that he got together with 4 of his cousins and bought an apartment building on the west side of Manhattan. Fast forward many years later, and they started to turn that building into a co-op and started selling off the units. My grandfather took his portion of those units, and he earmarked it to help each of his 36 grandchildren pay for their first home purchase. So basically, he provided the down payment. That gift that I got from my grandfather, which wasn't huge, it was $20,000 to $40,000, somewhere in that range. I don't remember the exact dollar amount. That gift allowed me to become a homeowner at 21. What that allowed me to do is then start saving for retirement in my 20s. What it allowed me to do is to build a asset that was gaining value in my 20s. When I went through my divorce 6 years later, I had that asset to sell, which then fully funded my 3 older kids' college funds. And so it's basically this like perpetual thing that kept paying for things and doing things for me with this little gift that I got up front. And what I realized is that impacted me so much. So when I started to think about, like, what is it that I want to do when I grow up? What is it I want to be known for? I said, I want to help people to create this generational wealth that they can impact their generations, kind of like my grandfather did for me. And that really started me on this trajectory of how do I help people with making money? And, I think I should help them with growing their business. And I went back to school as an adult. I was a single dad. I was working 2 full-time jobs, and I became a full-time student at the same time. Which, by the way, just a deviation, the full-time job, one of the things that I do is I'm a paramedic. I still do it today. I love doing it. But that's an interesting fact about me. So working 2 jobs, went to school, got my undergrad in accounting, ended up getting my MBA, sat for the CPA exams, and then decided to start my own business. Back in 2014 is when I first started, and I was moonlighting with my business growth because I still had a family to feed. So I was still working in IT during the day. It wasn't until 3 years later, 2017, when I realized that I was losing more clients than I was getting because I just couldn't keep up and serve them working in the evenings, that I finally said, okay, quitting my job and going into this full time. And since then, it's been a journey of who do I serve and how do I serve them and what do they need so that I can actually help them to perpetuate this mission that I'm on, which is really just throw off a ton of cash from your business and do smart things with it. And that's where I am today. Back in 2018, I got my first law firm as a client. They referred me 4 others, and I realized that 4 out of 5 had the same problem, and they were literally moving money from their personal account to their business account to cover payroll, cover rent. And I said, oh, here's an opportunity for me to focus on one industry, one niche, and really hone in on them and help them. And that's when the Profit with Law podcast was started. March of 2019, we started the podcast. December of 2019, we started the Law Firm Growth Summit. It's an online virtual conference. We have our 6th event coming up next February. And it's awesome. We bring 50 plus speakers to the virtual stage. We have over 2,000 law firm owners join us. And it's just a great place of 3 days of just a ton of information for you to be able to grow your practice. But my business morphed into basically this 3-legged stool of supporting people, where we have a coaching program for smaller clients, we have fractional CFO services for larger clients, and then we have the tax piece of it, where we do tax planning. We're not your typical file your taxes at the year-end engagement. We help our clients throughout the year make really smart decisions so that their tax bill is as low as possible. One of the things that a lot of people didn't like or people focused in on when President Donald Trump ran for his first term, as he stood up there on the debate stage and he said, you know why I pay $0 in taxes? Because I'm smart. And take that with whatever grain of salt that you want or however you want to take that to mean, but he's right? Like, surround yourself with smart people who can help you make smart decisions with taxes, and your tax bill can be extremely lower than it is. And this is less of an issue for people who are not making a ton of money. But as you start to grow your business, you do the things that we do. We help you throw off a ton of cash. Guess what's going to happen? Government wants their piece. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we're able to do is really help you to navigate that. And as specifically law firm owners, and we work with any business owner, but law firm is the niche that we focus on. Specifically with law firm owners, there's unique opportunities that I would tell you that 98% of the accountants out there don't know about, that we can help you be smarter than the rest when it comes to your taxes. But that's a very short, long story of my background, how I got here, and who we serve and how we serve them.
So I'm first going to make a comment, but before I make my comment, I'm going to ask my question, but let me make my comment before you answer. So the question is, what is the difference between how you think through the financials and how like an accountant might? Okay, so that's my question. But first I have to say, wow, your story. Like, what a beautiful story. The foundation of your business is this wonderful generational legacy. And I find that to be so touching. I think this is the first time that you shared it with me. So I was like, wow. And I can relate not from the financial standpoint, but like, my grandmother was a big influence in my life and the way that I have structured my business. She was this amazing, like, overcame whatever hustle, like, widow of like 11 children, and like sold chickens and just made it work. And a prayer warrior. And I see that her fingerprints in my business. So like, I just have to say, like, wow, how beautiful it is to hear that story. Thank you for sharing. And what an honor it is for your clients, I'm sure, to know that this isn't just about a business. It's a legacy that's almost in your DNA. So I just think that's beautiful. And I wanted to make that comment. Now, back to my question.
I love that, and we'll get to your question in a moment, but just to amplify that. So first of all, our mission statement is to empower all people with wealth creation so that this and future generations can lead a better life. And it means different things to different people, right? Like Warren Buffett is going to leave, billions of dollars to charity. Like that's how he's going to leave his legacy. I'm sure he's leaving a legacy for his family too. But it doesn't have to be children and grandchildren. Like there's a lot of people out there who are like, okay, that's not important to me, or I don't have the children or grandchildren. But there is something, and this is the other part of it. I went through this exercise. So there's a book that I give to all of my elite clients when they become clients, and I went through this book myself, and it's by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkavy, and it's called Living Forward. And this book is all about creating a plan for your life, and it focuses on the different domains of life. So one of the exercises that they have you do is they have you write your own eulogy. Now, when you write your own eulogy, you really have to think about, like, what is it that I want to be known for? Like, and when I went through this, I realized that's when I had this big epiphany. I was in IT, and I was resurrecting servers in the middle of the night after ransomware attacks, right? That was my big claim to fame. And I was like, I don't want them talking about that at my funeral. Like, that's a big
deal, though. I just had a client hit by that Medusa virus. I'm just saying, like, that's a big deal. But I hear you.
I mean, look, I'm a paramedic. I see death all the time. I see that life is short. You may not have the time to carry out your perfectly executed plan, right? So what are you doing today to leave your impact? But we're all, I mean, look, if we're talking about attorneys, every attorney, like, you're on a mission, right? Every attorney is impacting the world through their law firm. But then I ask the simple question of, like, if that's your lasting impact, do you want to do it, like, based on how many people you personally can serve, or do you want to have a bunch of attorneys serving a bunch of people, right? Like, how far do you want to amplify the amount that you are serving the community or the world with the stuff that you're doing? So it's more than just the money that you make, but it's also the impact you can leave and the size of that impact and how amplified it can be. And I think that's really important for everyone to get clear about, because maybe some people shouldn't be running a law firm, right? And some people should be doing something else, but some people should be doing that, but in a different way. And to answer your question about how I see things different than an accountant, there's a few things that I do that I think are unique, not necessarily unique in the marketplace, but unique from the numbers or financial perspective. Number one is begin with the end in mind. Accountants are typically looking at how you did and judging you from your past, right? I don't actually care about your past. What you've done before, that's a series of lessons learned and things like that, but what's possible for you tomorrow has nothing to do with what you already did.
I love that.
And everything to do with what you want to do. So the first place that I go with any client in any type of engagement is, what is it that you're really trying to create? And what does that look like just 12 months from now? And if we paint that picture and figure out what that needs to look like, and then actually put that into, now this is where the accountant in me comes out, we put that into numbers, and we make sure that you're running at a 30-40% profit margin in this fictitious future picture. Well, now we have the end result that we're trying to create. It's kind of like when we get into a car and we have a GPS and we're like, all right, where do you want to go? If I don't put a destination in, it can't tell us where we want to go. If I don't know where I'm starting, it can't tell us the route from point A to point B. So we need to know where we are now. We need to know where we're going. And then we've got this ability to be able to draw a straight line. We can see the fastest path to get there.
So give me a case study, like, and you don't have to go into personal details, but like, share a story of transformation with a law firm owner where you applied this approach, this way of looking at things to their firm, and what did you help them accomplish? Like, what was their goal?
Oh, absolutely. So, on our coaching side, so in our elite coaching program helps solos and smalls to grow beyond themselves. So we take firms typically from the 250 to 750 range to 1 to 2 million in revenue, with a focus on profitability. I'm a profit first professional. I'm a big fan of Mike McAllis's book, Profit First. But more importantly, I'm a big fan of people making money during this process, right? So many people think that I need to sacrifice today to have the money tomorrow. And we do the same thing with time, right? I need to sacrifice my time today so I have my time tomorrow. And I'm very intentional with being anti that. I only work 4 days a week and I only work 6 hours a day, not because I am abundantly rich, but because I decided that spending time with my kids was more important than spending time in my business. And what that forced me to do is make business decisions in a more accelerated way as far as expanding my team.
So this is a little personal, but I bet some of my law firm audience members can relate. What if in your mind you think, if I want to put my family first, if I want to put my health first or my blank first, that's important to me as a person, and I don't spend that time on my business, then what I'm in essence saying is I don't want to grow my business. That's like a mindset thing that I personally have been like chipping away at over the years. Yeah. And I know in my head it's not true, but I find myself like going, and I've been working with a coach on that.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Of course. Yeah. The reason that you think that is because you have a correlation in your mind about the level of work equals the level of success. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I would tell you, look around you.
Yeah.
Find somebody who's sitting on their butt and making more money than you.
Right.
There are plenty of examples of that, right? The correlation between effort and money that you're making is false. As a matter of fact, if you look
that's
at
true.
look at Mr. Morgan of Morgan & Morgan, right? Like, do you think that he's handling client work? Right?
That's true.
He's making more money than you and I. Right?
That's true.
But he's waking up in the morning thinking about, okay, what am I having for lunch? Not which meeting do I need to get to? He probably still goes to meetings, right? I don't know anything about his daily schedule, so don't think I'm like, oh, yeah, I saw his calendar.
Right.
But we can in our minds understand that if he's got all the people to do all the things, he doesn't need to do anything.
Yeah.
So the correlation between hard work and results is false. And if we can break that, like if we can understand that correlation is false, that allows us to completely approach this differently. One of the things that really opened my mind up to this is from the Profit First book, Parkinson's Law. So Parkinson's Law dictates that when given a finite resource, our needs to consume that resource are going to expand to the resource available. What that means, without being really fancy, is I have a tube of toothpaste and a toothbrush. Every time I go to brush my teeth, I'm going to slobber this huge amount of toothpaste onto my toothbrush. When I get to the end of the toothbrush and there's only a little bit left and I'm eking out the end of it, somehow I'm getting a little tiny pea-sized amount of toothpaste on my toothbrush, and I'm still able to brush my teeth. And I feel just as clean as when I threw the glob on. As a matter of fact, when we throw the glob on, half of it's ending up in the sink anyway without even going into our mouth, right? So what that means is that we can make do with less. And looked at the other way, if we give ourselves less of that resource, we're going to find ways to get the job done, even though we have less of it. So what I found is that if I just put parameters on my work schedule, and I say, I'm just available from 10 to 4, that's the time I'm working. There is no other time. And if you say, well, I can't do that, well, you are doing that. You're just doing it with an expanded resource, right? Like, you're doing it, but you're doing it from 7 a.m. to midnight. But at some point, you need an off switch. You got to go get some sleep. You're not staying up night after night after night. So you are limiting that resource, except you're allowing your body to force you to limit it, as opposed to you just being a big boy or big girl and limiting it yourself. The reality is that if we make it a finite resource and we create that boundary and we don't violate that boundary with rare exception, it's going to force us to figure out, how do I get this job done if I don't have enough hours in the day? And what's interesting is that 90% of what you do could be done in those hours.
So one question that I get asked a lot, that I wonder what's your methodology to approach this, is at what point does it make sense to hire people in a law firm, whether like I get asked a lot about like marketing professionals, intake people. Overall, what's your process when you're advising, or what do you look for as, okay, you're ready to hire more people, to delegate more?
Yeah, the right time is probably about 6 months before you ask the question.
Okay.
So here's the thing. And one of the things I've been going to the marketplace and really screaming from the rooftops about is that every law firm owner should be hiring an attorney from the day they open their door. Right? Because the moment that you think of yourself as the attorney, you have just set yourself on a path of slow growth for the next 20 years.
That's true.
And
That's
because
true.
And this is, I mean, people say, oh, you're just stealing this from, what's his name's book, Michael Gerber's book, right? He gives the example of the baker and how she's like really passionate about her work and she's doing the baking, but until she brings on another baker, she's limited on what she can do. When you are the attorney, if you see yourself as the attorney, there's a max capacity you have. Clio did a study back in 2018, and they surveyed 2,000 law firms, solo law firms. And what they found is that the average solo law firm owner is producing billable work of 2.4 hours per day. Mm-hmm. They're billing 1.9 of those hours, and they're collecting 1.6 on average per day. Now, if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, no, I do more than that. I would invite you to think about the days.
How did you know attorneys talk like that?
I would invite you to think about the days you don't do any work, right? Or the days you're only doing sales conversations, or you're only meeting with clients, or like when you start to add it all up together and then divide it by the total number of work days, you're going to find that study is spot on. And the reason is because as the owner, you're doing a lot of things. You have to be the billing clerk. You have to be the collections person. You have to be the marketer, the salesperson. You're all those things, right? So the attorney can only be a hat for part of the time. And that part of the time tends to be about a third of what a full-time attorney on your staff could produce. Now, herein is the problem and why this takes so long. There's nothing wrong with you starting that way if you can figure out to switch. The problem is that we get into this catch-22 of thinking I can't hire somebody until I am making enough money to be able to pay their payroll.
That was going to be my next question, because I get that a lot.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And the problem is based on the math I just shared, you're never going to get there. Because when you're producing a third of what they can produce, you're never going to have enough money to feel financially successful enough that you can bring on that person. And therefore, it requires you to change your mindset and be a business owner, an investor in your business. And an investor understands that I make the investment first, and then I reap the rewards of that investment later.
That's true.
Just like in the stock market, I can't say, okay, I'm going to take the appreciation of Apple stock for the next 12 months, and at the end of it, I'm going to buy it. Right? You got to buy the shares, and then 12 months later, you can sell it and reap the rewards of what where those shares went.
Yeah.
When I hire an attorney, I need to invest $10,000, $15,000 a month in their salary, and then 3 months later, I'm producing $45,000 more in revenue because of the capacity they just gave me, and now I can pay back my investment.
Okay.
With marketing, I need to invest $10,000 in marketing so I can get $100,000 in revenue out of it.
Yeah.
If I wait for the $100,000 in revenue to come and then earmark the marketing budget, it ain't going to ever come.
Right.
So that's when we're operating from this mindset of when I get there, when I get the success, I'll be able to do it. We're already operating from the wrong frame of mind, and that all starts from seeing ourselves as the attorney. The moment that we see ourselves as the business owner or the investor, we realize with investment comes first, and then we could have hired that attorney on day one. That attorney is doing the legal work, and now we have one game to play. I got to bring $10,000, $15,000 of revenue in the door to cover that attorney's salary. And then I have the next phase of that game to play. I got to make more money so I can pay myself. And then we have the next game to play. I got to make more money so I have more money to invest in my business. Well, guess what? One attorney should be worth about $750,000 to $1 million in revenue for your firm. You, as a solo practitioner, can only do $300,000 to $500,000. You'll never get to $1 million as a solo practitioner. with very few exceptions. I mean, like 1% or less than 1% of the firm owners out there could figure out how to do that. Sam Malai and Joey Vitale are examples of people that I know that have built million-plus law firms. But in all fairness, their law firm is based on an area of law that really doesn't need the attorney to do the work. They built their firm off of the backs of non-attorney personnel doing the work, and that's the secret sauce for those people. But any area of law that you needs the attorney doing some amount of that work, there is a limit on what one attorney can do, and then the limit for the owner is about a third of that.
Hey there, I hope you're enjoying the conversation and your sandwich as much as we are. I want to take a moment to share a few words about our sponsor, Marketing Boss. If you're a law firm owner looking to supercharge your growth, our team at Marketing Boss is here to help. We've got over a decade of experience and a proven track record, and we specialize in growing law firms like yours with data-driven marketing leadership. So if you own a law firm and you're ready to get a predictable, steady flow of cases from your marketing, let's connect at marketing-boss.com.
Now, another question that I get that I would love to get your insights on, what is a decent cost per case? You can answer this. I know. It's an unfair question. I just
It's
think
not
it's
an
fun.
unfair question. It's just one of those questions
don't
that's
know,
going to
but-
make me sound like an attorney because I'm going to answer it depends, right?
Yeah, I know. But let's play a little. Let's explore.
Right.
What are
Here's
some
the thing,
scenarios?
and this will really help our audience wrap their head around it, because it's different for every practice area.
Yes, absolutely.
And the reason it's different for every practice area is because every business model has different things it allows. So, for example, let's say criminal defense. Criminal defense is a very high-touch practice area. The attorney does 75% or 80% of the work. 20% is done by support staff, whatever, preparing motions and responses. But most of the work's happening in the courtroom, right? Because of that high-touch volume of the attorney is going to have a much lower capacity as far as how much revenue they can generate. And therefore, there's more inputs of the revenue. So every dollar that comes in, maybe 50 cents of that dollar is going to actually delivering legal services.
Okay.
If I want to make a 40% profit margin, that only leaves 10% for my marketing, my overhead, and everything else. Right? So it becomes very difficult to invest a lot of money in marketing in that scenario. Let's take estate planning. Estate planning, every estate plan with a trust takes maybe 2 hours of an attorney's time. Now, we're going to have listeners who are going to throw their beer at the wall and shatter the glass because they're like, what are you talking about? I spend 10 hours. Yeah, but you don't have a drafting paralegal. You don't have somebody collecting the documents from your clients. You're doing it all. So, of course, it takes you 10 hours. But if we really think about the things that the attorney has to do, the attorney does not have to be there for the sales conversation. The attorney does not have to be there for the signing. The attorney needs to just review the file, review the draft, make sure it's good.
That's fair. Yeah.
Right? So the attorney only, like in a most efficient run firm, the attorney spends 2 hours on an estate plan. If we say that means they could do 3 estate plans a day, I'm going to do math live here on the show, right? 3 estate plans a day, 5 days a week, 48 weeks a year. Okay? That's 720 estate plans. At $4,000 an estate plan, that's, guess what, $2.8 million in revenue. Now, every estate planning attorney out there, if I said an estate planning attorney should be able to bring in $2 to $3 million in revenue, would say, you're on drugs. The reality is I'm not. And if you run your firm efficiently and figure out how to bring these clients in and have other people doing the lower level tasks that don't require an attorney, you absolutely can. And this is where we get to unlock way more marketing spend for somebody who's doing estate planning versus somebody who's doing criminal defense. Because if, let's say the support staff costs just as much as the attorney. So we're bringing in $2.5 million in revenue, but we're paying $250 for an attorney. We're paying $250 for support staff. $500,000. That's 20% of $2.5 million. That allows us to allocate 15% to overhead, and still have how much left? So we're at 35. We want to have 40% profit margin, 25% to marketing. So my answer to you is it depends on not just the practice area, but how efficiently the firm is running and whether it's set up for this kind of success. Most firms that are approaching this problem are not. And therefore, they're not set up to spend 25% on marketing. The problem is that the smaller you are, the more percentage you're probably spending on marketing to try to get that phone to ring. And that's why so many firms struggle with profitability in the early stages of growth. And my argument or statement to you is find cheaper ways to bring in clients, right? Like it doesn't, we all want to go into Google and spend money to bring it in. And I believe that is the low-hanging fruit. However, it comes with a price tag. And the bigger boys have much more money to spend, and girls, they have much more money to spend, and they are going to outbid you and outperform you at every step of the way. So where can you put your effort, say in estate planning, right? Like, what can you do? Well, you can go and make relationships with financial planners and hold workshops and do something that costs you a lot less to really build up that client base so that you have the war chest of money to spend on digital marketing. But digital marketing is not the answer for most of the brand new fledglings, really small attorneys, law firms going just from solo and beyond. Now, GLSAs is an exception. You're paying per lead. Like if you can get Google to send you traffic, great. But you still need to convert it, right? You have to have a good sales process. And we can go into all kinds of directions with this, right? Yeah. But that's where our secret sauce is get really, really good on how you measure this. Yeah. Because that will tell you a story. We just had a meeting with one of our fractional CFO clients today. And they're doing estate planning. They're building. They're trying to get to $300,000+ a month in estate planning revenue. Okay, so they're not a small operation. They're very serious. And we looked at 4 things: show up rate from their advertisement to the workshop. It's an in-person workshop. Performance conversion from the workshop to their next step, which is a strategy session for them. Conversion from the strategy session. Like show up rate to the strategy session, and then conversion into a client. So 4 junctures that we had data, metrics of how it's performing. They wanted to go in one direction with what they wanted to tweak in this process to try to improve results. I said, 1 second, let's let the numbers tell the story. Let's take the same 1,000 number of people coming in or 500 people coming in, and let's just see if we are able to increase each of these rates, what happens? And what ended up happening is the biggest opportunity you would think was the close rate at the sales conversation, or maybe the show up rate to the initial, the show up rate to the initial meeting. Or guess what? They thought it was the conversion rate in the meeting, like getting more people in the meeting to actually book the next session. Because that's where they're seeing people, and they're seeing less than half the room is converted. When we put the numbers in, the real opportunity that was going to give them the biggest jump in revenue was getting people to show up, from booking to go there to actually show up and be there. And the second best opportunity was the conversions on the sales conversation. And now if we marry those two together, improving those two, not major improvements, just significant enough, it has a value for them of $200,000 in revenue a month. So what those kinds of conversations do is it allows us to hone in and focus in on, okay, the only thing we're doing for the next 90 days is we're figuring out how to get more people who actually click on this ad and say, I am interested, I'm coming, to actually show up at the door. They have a great process right now. They've got phone calls and texts and email follow-up, right? Well, guess what? We're going to have another session, and we're going to brainstorm what else they can do, like snail mail, video mailers, somebody showing up at their house in a clown suit, whatever. We're going to come up with ideas.
A welcome gift. Yeah.
And we're going to pick the top 4 ideas, and we're going to test each one for 3 weeks. And for the next 90 days, we're going to figure out how to solve this problem. that's the problem. Like, if we had to put it in a nutshell, that is the challenge most business owners face, is they don't have that level of commitment and what the next thing is they need to focus on, and then that level of focused intensity to actually solve it.
Right. I love that. That warms my heart, because I can relate to the process of, before we throw more money at something, how can we improve what we're already doing? And I know sometimes I annoy my clients with that. Like yesterday, I was meeting with a client and he's like, I want to do billboards and I want to do this. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, who's going to answer the phone? What's going to happen when we get 20 more phone calls and there's no one here, like, to answer the phone? Like, we can't do this right now. Like, let's first address that. And it's like, you know, and I say I annoy because they want it to be easy. Like, they want to just throw more money at something and fill the funnel, like, with more people, but that's not always the answer. And it can get expensive and very wasteful, you know, to use your metaphor of the toothpaste. We waste a lot of toothpaste on vanity marketing and even Google. I agree. Google is a great way to get the phone to ring, but you have to have the infrastructure to really flip those leads. And you will eventually hit a ceiling because of competition and also brand recognition, right? Morgan & Morgan in the PI space is constantly branding. So they're going to have that brand awareness advantage when somebody sees their Google response ad right next to yours, Acme Law, that no one's ever heard of. So yeah, but I could talk to you all day, and I know I promise you
one of our clients is doing about 1,200 inbound leads from Google a month in one of their divisions. And we were on a call, and the person who was handling those the initial intake, shared that their answer rate was 80%. And I said, whoa, what? Go back. What's your answer rate? And then I said, okay, the only thing that we're going to focus on for the next 3 weeks is how to get that answer rate above 90% and then 95. Like, that is our goal, right? I didn't need any math or data to tell me. I just understood that when you get a phone call from Google, somebody who never heard of you before, they're not trying to reach you again.
Nope.
You're not the vet with their dog being sick, right? Yeah. You're a random number on a random list of other people who showed up, right? Whoever is going to be the fastest to answer, the fastest to talk to them, 80-90% of the time is getting the sale, right? They were able to get them their answer rate over 90% in 3 weeks. And the following month, after this 80% answer rate, they increased their revenue by $120,000.
I love it.
By simply making sure that that phone got answered. And, you know, this goes back to another Clio study that they did in their legal trends report. This one's referenced a lot by the answering service companies. They surveyed, once again, 2,000 law firm owners, pretending to be somebody looking for an attorney to represent them. What they found is that 66%, 2/3 of the firms they called either did not answer the phone the first time, did not call back a voicemail that was left, or did not return a call after the first conversation. So that means that if you simply answer the phone and talk to somebody and follow up with them, you're in the top 1/3 of law firms. Right? Wow. These are the crazy things that, like, they're so stupid simple, but when you're trying to wear all the hats, do all the things, it becomes almost impossible to focus on this kind of stuff.
Right.
And listeners, I might say, like, if you're small, you might say, oh yeah, these big fish, they could focus on it because they got the team to do it. But I would argue that in today's day and age, with international workforce, with fractional gig workers, with all of these, you know, even attorneys, you can get contract attorneys on lawclerk.legal, right? Like, there's an answer to everything. You do not need to expand with full-time staff members to solve the problem. I love the book Who Not How, but even more, the same author, so Benjamin Hardy writing for Dan Sullivan. I like 10X is easier than 2X. Love that book. I referenced it a bunch in my last Law Firm Growth Summit. I gave it as a gift to everybody who bought a VIP pass there. That is an awesome read, awesome book. But the premise of it is basically, if you make your goal big enough, there's only going to be one or two ways to get there. When we try to get incremental success, we try to grow slowly into the next step. there's 7,000 ways to get there, and it creates a ton of confusion about what you should be doing. And what ends up happening is we're just treading water. We're just trying to stay on this small positive trajectory. And what I invite our listeners to do is to think bigger, right? If you try to go from 100,000 to 1,000,000 instead of 100,000 to 200,000, the path to there is going to be so much easier, right? Like, at 1,000,000 you need an attorney. At 200,000 you don't. So automatically, like, it's going to force you to do the hard thing that you need to do to get there. And that's just one decision, but there's a whole series of decisions that need to be made that are much easier when you move that cheese far enough, move that goal far enough, and you are going to succeed simply because it creates clarity around what you should be doing.
That's deep. I will add this, that I definitely have seen a pattern. I've had the privilege, the honor of working with some really big firms. And what I've noticed, that there is definitely a pattern between the solos that just stay solo for years and the ones that grow really fast. They're definitely the types of people that big is the only way. And you're right, their path is very narrow, and it makes a lot of those small decisions very simple. So one telltale is, if I have a law firm owner that's getting stressed out about buying a Gmail license or what thickness of cards, to me, that's already a flag. I mean, I love all the law firms, all the sizes, and I'll always treat them with respect and compassion, but, mental note. And the bigger law firms, they don't worry about that stuff. They're like, I got places to go. This is little stuff. That one. Next. So there's definitely that pattern.
We have the same exact thing. If we're in a sales conversation for our elite coaching program or our CFO services, if the sales cycle is very easy, very little resistant, it's just like, okay, where do I sign? How do I get started? They are 90% more likely to succeed than somebody who needs to be convinced to be there. And that's just, I mean, you guys know that. I mean, even law firms know that as clients, right? Like, if I get somebody in the door and it's a breeze to sell to them, they're going to be a great client. If they're nickel and diming me in the conversation about using us as their attorney, guess what they're going to be doing? They're going to be calling my office every day, right? They're going to be that PIA client. And, we get to have a filter on and decide how we want to, one of the things that nobody takes me up on this, but one of the things that you can do is, when you have somebody who's like hemming and hawing at the price, is raise the price. Like, you know what? I see that you're not sure about this. I just want to tell you that, the price just went up. It's now, 7,000 instead of 5,000. We're the best that you're going to get. If you're looking for a cheap solution, we're going to encourage you to go there. That's what we're doing right now. If you want the best, that's what it's going to cost. If they want you badly enough, they're going to cough up the 7,000. You know what they're going to do after that experience? They're going to respect you a ton more. Yeah. So I'm gonna cut out this piece of the podcast and add it to my nurture sequence for the law firms that did not buy. By the way, here's a message. Here's what Moshe thinks. Here's what Moshe thinks about what I should do next. Would you like me to raise the price, or would you like to move forward?
Oh my God, this has been great. I could talk to you forever. I'm going to ask you two more questions. Sure. The first is, how can people get in touch with you if they want to pick your brain, hire you, and work with you, come to one of your events, or, just get to know more about how they can work with you?
Sure. So picking my brain costs thousands of dollars, but if you want the free Profit with Law on YouTube, Profit with Law on any podcast player, or he's mentioned at the beginning of the show, but if you want to have a strategy session with somebody on my team, that's a 30-minute call where they basically help you organize your thoughts about where you want to go, what are the obstacles in your way, and how to overcome them. And then from there, it can be an exploration of whether we're a fit and we can work with you. That strategy session is absolutely free. It's about 30 minutes long. Go to profitwithlaw.com/strategy session, and I'm hoping you're going to provide the links to that so that people can just click on it. It's a lot of words, but profitwithlaw.com/strategy session. And if you book one of those calls, you'll be on our marketing list, and then you'll know about all the stuff that's coming up. Our Law Firm Growth Summit in February next year is probably not going to get promoted until November. So there's nothing to do right now to sign up for it, but the URL for that, if you want to put it in your calendar and go to it back, around Thanksgiving time, is lawfirmgrowthsummit.com.
It's in February or November?
It's in February.
Okay, February. Okay, gotcha. Okay. And then what is your favorite sandwich? Because this is, after all, the Care Sandwich podcast.
Well, my name is Moshe. Makes me very Jewish. So I can't go with anything other than a delicious pastrami on rye.
Nice. Okay, cool.
And
that's a really good sandwich.
Any of you who want to go to New York City, Katz's, I mean, the pile of pastrami is like yay high. It's like huge. It's delicious. You could eat for a week off of that. I mean, I eat it in one sitting, but you could eat for a week off of that.
That sounds delicious. Yeah, I love some good pastrami. That's good stuff. Cool. Well, there you have it, folks. He likes his pastrami on rye, and he can make you more money with your law firm, help you make more money with your law firm. And you can get in touch with him for a 30-minute, him and his team, for a 30-minute. And if you want to pick his brain, you can pick it, but it's going to cost you. And if you have to think about it, it'll cost you double. We'll catch you on the next episode of Care Sandwich.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Care Sandwich. Remember, the way we care for our clients, our teams, and ourselves can make all the difference in our success. Until next time, keep caring, keep growing, and I'll see you on the next episode of Care Sandwich.